December 2015. The city of Ramadi is in ruins. Smoke rises from shattered buildings, and the streets are littered with debris. The Iraqi military, backed by coalition forces, prepares for one of the deadliest urban battles in modern history. Their enemy? ISIS, a ruthless force that has turned the city into a fortress of death. But this isn't just a battle for territory. It's a fight for survival, for freedom, and for the future of Iraq. This is the Battle of Ramadi. Welcome to Old Around the World, where we travel back in time to bring histories back to life. Ramadi, the capital of Iraq's Anbar province, became a key battleground in the fight for control over western Iraq. Situated along the Euphrates River, this city was strategically vital, serving as a critical hub for insurgents and U.S.-led coalition forces. Between 2004 and 2016, Ramadi witnessed some of the most intense urban combat of the Iraq War and the later fight against ISIS. The battle for Ramadi was not a single engagement, but a series of brutal clashes that saw insurgents, tribal fighters, U.S. Marines, and Iraqi forces locked in an ongoing struggle. What made Ramadi unique was its deadly combination of urban warfare, IED attacks, and the use of snipers to pin down coalition forces. It was here that the United States refined counterinsurgency tactics that would later be applied across Iraq. Ramadi was first overrun by insurgents in 2004, following the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime. The city became a major stronghold for Al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI, which used it as a launching pad for attacks across Anbar province. U.S. forces quickly realized that without securing Ramadi, stability in western Iraq was impossible. This documentary will take you through the key battles that shaped Ramadi, from the early days of insurgency to the dramatic battle against ISIS in 2015. This is the story of courage, strategy, and the immense cost of urban warfare in one of Iraq's most dangerous cities. After the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, Ramadi remained relatively stable at first. But by early 2004, the situation had deteriorated rapidly as insurgent groups, including AQI, took advantage of the power vacuum left by Saddam's fall. The city's streets became hostile territory, with ambushes and roadside bomb attacks increasing daily. In April 2004, the First Battle of Fallujah erupted just east of Ramadi, drawing U.S. forces away from Anbar's capital. As American troops focused on Fallujah, insurgents in Ramadi seized the opportunity to strengthen their hold. By mid-2004, Ramadi had become one of the most dangerous places in Iraq, with AQI effectively controlling the city. Insurgents established networks of safe houses, supply routes, and training centers within Ramadi. They used sophisticated IEDs, car bombs, and snipers to make movement nearly impossible for coalition forces. AQI leaders declared Ramadi the capital of their Islamic State in Iraq, setting the stage for years of bloody conflict. The U.S. military quickly realized that regaining control of Ramadi would not be easy. The city's narrow streets, densely packed neighborhoods, and hidden tunnels made conventional warfare ineffective. It was clear that Ramadi would require a new approach, one that would take years to develop. By 2005, Ramadi had become the center of the insurgency in Iraq. American forces, primarily the U.S. Marines and Army, launched a series of offensives to reclaim the city. Operation Steel Curtain and Operation Rivergate were among the key military campaigns designed to weaken insurgent control in Anbar. One of the biggest challenges was the presence of foreign fighters who had flocked to Iraq to join the jihad. Many of these extremists were highly trained, making them formidable opponents. U.S. forces also had to contend with local insurgents who knew the terrain and could blend into the civilian population. During this period, U.S. troops began working closely with the Iraqi army and local tribal leaders. The goal was to shift the momentum by encouraging Sunni tribes to reject AQI. However, trust between the Americans and the local population was fragile, and progress was slow. Despite heavy fighting, by late 2006, U.S. forces had begun establishing control over key areas of Ramadi. But victory came at a high cost. Casualties among American troops were mounting, and the city was left in ruins. The fight for Ramadi was far from over. One of the most significant turning points in the battle for Ramadi came in 2007 with the rise of the Anbar Awakening. Frustrated by AQI's brutality, Sunni tribal leaders decided to ally with U.S. forces to drive the extremists out of their communities. Led by Sheikh Abdul Sattar Abu Risha, the Awakening movement saw thousands of local fighters turn against AQI. These men, many of whom had previously fought against the U.S., now became allies in the fight against extremism. With the support of the U.S. military, the Awakening Councils conducted raids, secured checkpoints, and gathered intelligence on AQI operations. This cooperation dramatically shifted the balance of power in Ramadi, weakening the insurgents' grip on the city. By the end of 2007, the U.S. military and their new tribal allies had successfully driven AQI out of Ramadi. The city, once a stronghold of insurgency, was now under coalition control, offering a brief period of stability before new threats emerged. Despite the gains made during the Awakening, Iraq's security situation deteriorated in the years that followed. By 2014, ISIS had risen to power, capturing large portions of Iraq and Syria. Ramadi was once again at the center of the conflict. In May 2015, ISIS launched a massive offensive against Ramadi, using suicide bombers and heavily armed fighters to overrun Iraqi forces. The Iraqi military, outnumbered and unprepared, abandoned their positions, allowing ISIS to take full control of the city. The fall of Ramadi was a devastating blow to Iraq's government. It proved that ISIS was a force to be reckoned with, capable of capturing major cities even against well-equipped armies. The world watched as ISIS executed civilians, destroyed infrastructure, and solidified its hold over Anbar province. But the fight for Ramadi was not over. The Iraqi government, backed by the U.S.-led coalition, vowed to retake the city. What followed was one of the most intense urban battles of the war against ISIS. As ISIS solidified its control over Ramadi, the Iraqi government, with support from the U.S.-led coalition, began planning a counteroffensive. The city was now a heavily fortified ISIS stronghold, with booby-trapped buildings, underground tunnels, and heavily armed fighters ready to defend their territory. Iraqi forces faced enormous challenges. ISIS had spent months preparing for the inevitable attack, turning Ramadi into a maze of explosives and sniper nests. Additionally, ISIS used civilians as human shields, making airstrikes and artillery bombardments risky. To regain control, Iraqi forces, primarily the Counter-Terrorism Service, CTS, and Iraqi army units, began encircling the city. They cut off supply routes and launched targeted airstrikes, aiming to weaken ISIS before launching a full-scale assault. The strategy was clear: isolate, bombard, and then push into the heart of the city. Throughout 2015, coalition forces provided crucial support, conducting hundreds of airstrikes against ISIS positions. The battle was set to be one of the most intense urban warfare campaigns in modern history, requiring a combination of precision air power, ground operations, and close-quarters combat. On December 22, 2015, after months of preparation, Iraqi forces launched their final assault on Ramadi. Unlike previous battles, where the Iraqi army had struggled against ISIS, this time, they were better trained and equipped. However, the fighting was brutal, as ISIS militants had transformed Ramadi into a death trap. As Iraqi forces pushed into the city, they encountered thousands of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, buried in roads, buildings, and even corpses. ISIS fighters used suicide car bombs, often ramming vehicles into Iraqi convoys before detonating massive explosions. One of the most dangerous aspects of the battle was the dense urban environment. Iraqi troops had to clear buildings room by room, often walking into ambushes. ISIS snipers occupied high-rise buildings, picking off soldiers as they advanced through the city streets. Despite these challenges, the Iraqi forces, with air support from the US-led coalition, continued their advance. By late December, they had pushed into the city center, tightening the noose around ISIS. But the most difficult fight was still ahead: the final push to retake the government complex. The final battle for Ramadi centered around the government complex, the last major ISIS stronghold in the city. Heavily fortified and surrounded by explosives, it was the last obstacle standing between Iraqi forces and total victory. On January 9, 2016, elite Iraqi counterterrorism service units stormed the complex. The battle was intense, with ISIS fighters launching desperate counterattacks. Suicide bombers, RPG fire, and sniper rounds rained down on the advancing Iraqi troops. Using a combination of precision airstrikes, armored vehicles, and infantry assaults, the Iraqi forces finally breached the ISIS defenses. After fierce hand-to-hand combat, they raised the Iraqi flag over the government complex, signaling the city's liberation. Though the battle was over, Ramadi lay in ruins. Nearly 80% of the city had been destroyed by the fighting. Thousands of civilians had fled, and those who remained faced a humanitarian crisis. The question now was whether Ramadi could ever recover from the devastation. The victory in Ramadi was a turning point in the war against ISIS, proving that the Iraqi military, with coalition support, could reclaim lost territory. However, the cost of the battle was staggering. The city was a ghost town, with entire neighborhoods flattened by airstrikes and bombings. Civilians who had fled the fighting returned to find their homes reduced to rubble. Infrastructure, schools, hospitals, water systems, was completely destroyed. The task of rebuilding Ramadi seemed nearly impossible. The Iraqi government, with aid from international organizations, began efforts to restore basic services. But remnants of ISIS still lurked in Anbar province, carrying out sporadic attacks and ambushes. The fight for stability was not over. The Iraqi military continued operations to clear out remaining ISIS cells and prevent the group from regaining a foothold. Despite these challenges, the retaking of Ramadi was a major psychological victory. It boosted the morale of the Iraqi military and paved the way for future offensives against ISIS, including the pivotal battles for Fallujah and Mosul. The Battle of Ramadi stands as one of the most intense urban warfare campaigns of the 21st century. It showcased the brutality of modern combat, the resilience of Iraqi forces, and the deadly tactics of ISIS. The lessons learned from Ramadi influenced future military operations in both Iraq and Syria. One of the key takeaways from the battle was the importance of coalition air support. Without precise airstrikes, the Iraqi military would have faced even greater losses. However, the extensive destruction raised questions about the cost of urban warfare and whether cities could be liberated without being completely leveled. For the people of Ramadi, the battle was not just a military victory, but a turning point in their struggle for survival. Years later, efforts to rebuild the city continue, with many families still unable to return to their homes. The scars of war remain visible on every street and building. The battle for Ramadi was not just about reclaiming territory. It was a symbol of Iraq's fight for its future. Though ISIS was defeated in the city, the threat of extremism remains. The story of Ramadi is a reminder that war may end, but its consequences last for generations. The Battle of Ramadi was a defining moment in the war against ISIS and the broader struggle for stability in Iraq. It highlighted the horrors of modern warfare and the resilience of those who fought to reclaim their homes. As history remembers Ramadi, it serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring spirit of those who refuse to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. If you enjoyed this or it moved you, please like, subscribe, and share. Bye, history lover.